Hello and welcome to Premier Injuries, where we have the most up-to-date information about the Premier League for you, whether that be on injuries, but also data and tactics. Today, Ben is talking to a very special guest about the topic that is in the ether at the moment, the Tottenham Fulham rescheduling. Lee Taylor is a Premier League sports performance therapist and the best person to give an insight into what this rescheduling impact has on Spurs, the Lily Whites, but also the Cottagers as well. So stay tuned, make sure to subscribe, share and leave us a like and enjoy today's content.
So Jose's been fairly vocal in the fact that, he doesn't want to get caught up in a fixture congestion period because Tottenham's still fighting on four fronts: Premier League, Europa League and two domestic cup competitions. So he wants to ensure that, they're not punished or penalised in any way. So he sort of come out and he said, look, I'm not prepared to put my players through 4 games in a week. So the FA and the Premier League have come together today and said, right, well, if Villa can't fulfil that fixture, we will look to rearrange something and put Fulham in their place. Now, Fulham had a game postponed over the festive period because of COVID. And the hoo-ha really is it just about, well, they've got less than 48 hours to prepare. Now, is this... Fulham are said to be fuming in Scott Parker. There's been no official response from the club. And to be honest, when the first thing I thought of it was, I'll speak to you to understand, are they justified in that, the fact that they've got a right to be unhappy, at the fact that they've had such short notice, or is it basically just, full of shit, just get on with it?
Well, there's two arguments here. Yeah. First of all, Tottenham have got 4 games in a week. You said, yeah.
Or potentially, that's what Jose Mourinho didn't want because they've been stung before.
Well, no, that's impossible anyway, and it's not fair on Tottenham. That's not fair because having 3 games in a week, the Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, right. Hear me out. Now that's normal for the Football League. Cup competitions, non-league teams. All right, they're non-league teams, but they're still football teams and they've still got to prepare and they've still got to win because they need money, right? Now, they're going to have smaller budgets. They're going to have smaller squads. Now, let's just put it in context with the EFL. So you have the EFL. They will play on a Saturday. Say, for instance, I'll pick a team. Let's say a League 2 team, right? A League 2 team, they play on a Saturday in League 2. Then they have to play on a Tuesday in the League Cup, yeah? Or the Checker Trade or whatever it's called, that silly cup. And then they have to play again on Saturday. Now, the following Tuesday, they might have to play again. And then they've got to play Saturday. So for me, it's all right for the lower league teams to do it. But then when the big boys have to do it, it's totally different. Now, over here, they've got massive squads. They've got a load of money. They're spending millions and hundreds of millions of pounds on players. So they have to deal with the fixtures. It's just like Christmas. The Premier League moan about fixtures over Christmas. Well, I'm not being funny. That's been going for like how many years? 100 years. That's been going for. Everyone plays at Christmas and loads of games at Christmas. It's normal. I've been in it 30 years. Do you know what I mean? It's normal. But they're protecting them so much now. It's a joke. It's a joke. Players are not, and clubs. It's a thing called player power now, and it has gone stupid because. Honestly, I just can't comprehend. The game has changed so much. And even with managers now, there's always an excuse. I feel for Scotty Parker because at the end of the day, he's a new manager. He's done so well. I rate him. I rated him as a player and I think he's matured into an unbelievable coach and a manager. But he's been put in a position where it's not right Tottenham have got 4 games. yeah. But then they've gone, oh, don't worry about it. We'll look after Tottenham. We'll tell Fulham they've got to play. Well, he's fighting for his life in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? So why is it fair on one and it's not fair on the other? You know? So, but it's a juggling tool. Everyone's going to have their own opinions on it. But the big thing comes down to they've got big enough squads. They've got all these academics, as I always say, that can't. But they've got all these academics that want a number crunch and have all the different facilities at the training grounds, which are fantastic. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the players. And are they fit enough? That's a question, because I think you see a lot more Premier League footballers injured than you do in the EFL.
So do you think in terms of, from logistically in terms of load management, so one of the issues seems to be that Scott Parker had earmarked this week. He said, right, we'll get this FA Cup fixture out the way at the weekend down at QPR, and then we'll have over a week to prepare for our next game. We'll get the lads on the training pitch for the first time properly in what might have been, a good period of time because of the fixture period. But all of a sudden, the FA comes down and says, well, actually, no, instead of having that week off, instead of having this block period that you've set aside to do whatever, you're going to be playing on Wednesday night. So is Scotty Parker justified in the fact that, well, actually, we have a right to be off because, all our plans have been thrown up in the air through no fault of our own?
When's he going to... The first thing is, again, is a big argument with it, is that people are going to agree and disagree and they're going to have their own opinions. But on a perspective of being in the game, first of all, they've got to play an FA Cup game, right? What's the window that they can play it in? Death warrant window they can play it in. What's the... Say that, because when is the next round? Do you know what I mean? So when is that period that they've got to play it in? If it's within a week that they've got to play it and they've been isolating, then they've got to play it. They've got no choice not to play it because the ball's come out the app and they've done that already, haven't they? So they've got to sort that out. So that would be a football league. That would be a football league directive, I suppose. From his point of view, of course, he's going to have the ump about it. Well, I would have the ump about it because you want to protect your club, protect your players, and make sure that they're right. Now, I will say this: the club that I'm at, and as well as other clubs, it's always been a little bit. The word I'm looking for, it's no one likes talking about it, right? It's like the elephant in the room. It's like the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
But every club has had COVID. Every club, mostly every club, or now whether they want to give it that one or they want to go, yeah, we've got it and we're doing the right things. Every club's had to deal with it and they've got their own protocols to deal with it, right? But the big thing with the COVID that the people don't understand, there are long-term effects after it, and some players are feeling that, and they're not coming back straight away. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Some of them might come in and have it, and so you've got that to put into context as well. But the Football League ain't going to worry about that. All the Football League going to worry about is ticking off that game, so they go, right, that's good. Right, now we can move on. So I can see the Football League's point of view, but being on Scotty Parker's side, he's not throwing his toys out his pram at all. He's protecting his football club as I would protect my football club or wherever football club I was at. I would protect mine and I would fight for that. And he wants his best team to play. He might play a different one in the FA Cup than he does in the league. I don't know. He's got a good squad, so he can choose things. He had problems at that football club, injury-wise, well-being-wise, that no one knows about, only him and his staff. So then he has to juggle that as well. No one understands that because they're supporters and media, So they things up as they normally do, which they do. Do you know what I mean? You know, people on the media are telling lies because their lips move. So it's one of them, and they're all on them for themselves. So
And in terms of the actual players, of getting them in a mindset or even preparing the players, I mean, Fulham made 7 changes for the game down at QPR at the weekend. And what he said was, the feeling is that he wouldn't have went with that team down at QPR had he known that this Premier League game would have been rearranged for the Wednesday. Is that almost a shift in mindset for those players? Or do you think, like you say, maybe it's not an issue down in the EFL, but is it something maybe just in that Premier League where players don't like that change in routine, or, they like to have things...
Right. Let's flip it on its head and tell me if I go off tangent, because that's really wound me up, that question. What is different? I'm talking about professional footballers. What is different, right, apart from the better player, because they're in the Premier League, and an EFL player? There's no difference. I'll tell you why. Because they're all professional footballers, and they should all should be treated the same. And at the end of the day, as soon as you start treating people different, your club's gone to pot. And then that's player power. The manager's got to get hold of it, and everyone is treated the same, but managed differently. There's players that you put your arm around, and you've got to stroke them, and you've got to tell them they're brilliant, and they'll go and play, and they'll be great, because they're fragile. And then you've got other ones that you've got to squeeze their throats, drag them into the ground, drag them through mud and puddles, pick them back up, brush them down and say, I love you, you're unbelievable. And then they'll go and do it. But it's different sorts of players. So they have to, one thing with that, players have to deal with it. Because at the end of the day, the manager has to make a decision. Now, as you said, he's made 7 changes. Would he have done that if the Premier League game was going on? Don't know. Who knows? You don't know the motive of the football club and what he wants to do and how he wants to play things. But because he's made the 7 changes, obviously you know that there must have been a motive behind that. So with the players' point of view, the players have to be prepared at any time to play football. They have to be, because they're professional footballers. They get paid to play football. It's their job. Now, you get some players deal with it. I look after 6 Premier League players, okay, that are probably the biggest names in the world. And I'm proud of that. And I've worked hard to do that. Yeah. Biggest names in the world. And they are so humble, right? They're all foreign. They're so humble. And I say to them, how come, and you got the ump because you're not playing this week? And they go, no, squad rotation. This is normal, team game. So for me, when I look at it, that's where the Premier League boys can adapt to that, because they understand it, that it is a squad rotation at the higher level. But when you go down the Premier League, your teams, that they will have more of an impetus of more of a solid structure, and they might change a couple. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they need to win them games. But the big thing with that now is players have to realise that there's going to be change, and they have to deal with it. Now, the game's been played. They've played Fulham. Scott Parker's got to go, right, I might need 6 of them players that played in that game, and they've got to play 48 hours later, and I can't do nothing about it. So that's thrown on him. He's going to have a recovery period after the game, probably 2 days. He'll have them straight in the next day. Don't know how their sports science department work there, but from my experience and how I would deal with it, your recovery periods are the most important periods, because as soon as you play, you reassess the squad that have played. You make sure your sports medicine team, sports science team, they go around, we check everyone, we kind of like screen people, because you know players, and you know how they react, and you know if they get if they're all right a day after, but it's 2 days after, they might get second day DOMs, and they might be worse off 2 days later. So you have to kind of manage the frequency and their loads accordingly. But everyone's different. But when you got a game 2 days later, it's all about that. It's that with the player. And if the player's strong enough, then you've got half a chance. But then you've got to look at how much work has the player been doing over the last, I don't know, say for instance 6 weeks. So you look at all his load through the last 6 weeks. Has he had enough rest? Have you been looking after him? Da, da, da. But it's simple. Know the player, yeah, and know the player and manage the player. You have to manage your player, right, individually, because they're all different. You never know what's going on with a player when he leaves the training ground. You have no control over that player when he leaves the training ground. You do not know what he's going to do when he goes home. You don't know when he leaves the training ground. All he knows is he's back in the morning at 9 o'clock if he's injured, or 8 o'clock, or if he's coming in for normal time, whatever managers do, different times. So say normal time is 9:45 meet and 10:30 train or whatever, for an example. You don't know. You can't manage them when they're not there, but you can help them and you can get in their heads and you can guide them, and they've got to buy into you. So that's a big thing when you're playing lots of games, you know. And if something's sprung on you, you have to deal with it. But then it's the consequences of dealing with it when you start getting problems. If you get injury problems, if the player's mindset is, oh no, I can't play 90 minutes again, or oh, I'll be able to play 30 minutes. You know what I mean? They beat themselves up, players, you know, because that's why you have to know your players. Mm-hmm. So I feel sorry for Scotty in Scotty Parker in a little way, because at the end of the day, he's got to rely on his team, his staffing team, to really and truly know the players and the players that are going to go and deliver for him, because he wants to win every game. Does that make sense?
No, that's great, Lee.
I'm just trying to talk to you as a person inside a football club running a sports medicine and science department, how things work. It might be at home, it might be a gambling problem. So there's all different things what you've got to get to know your players about. And that all comes down to that umbrella of playing games and training.
No, it's exactly what I was looking for, just that peek behind the curtain, Lee. And I mean, I just want to wrap it up. And one thing you touched upon, I don't know if you're aware that in the Scottish FA announced today, and I digress slightly, but they've announced that the football below the highest tier will now be suspended for, I think it's a 3-week period.
Do you know I know that? Do you know that, big man? I've walked in. It's the first thing my wife said to me. But yeah, no, I get that. I think they've got tougher laws where they've just shut everything down, like Wales have and Scotland have, and I think Northern Ireland as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if they did do that, it's not. We're classed as elite sport, yeah. Down to, I think it's whatever pyramid in the pyramid it is. I'm not sure what step it is, but we're class. My club where I'm at, we're classed as elite sport. So we're a full-time professional football club, and we can go work. Now, they've in Scotland, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Premier League, SPL and the Championship that can play, but 1, 2 and 3 can't. Is that right?
Yeah. So below, I think it's below the top 2 tiers. I think it is anywhere below that. That's it.
So, well, if they do that there, I don't know what our FA is going to do, because we don't know from 1 minute to the next what they're going to do with the rules, because everything gets changed. But we have to adhere to them because it's the governing body at the end of the day. Doesn't mean we have to agree with it, but I hope that doesn't happen to us, because I think with the current climate in our country at the moment, as in the world, I think football, rugby, cricket, any sport is keeping our country going. I mean, I adore rugby, and I'll be gutted if it ain't on and I can't watch it. Yeah. So, and I think all us people in football will be upset if we can't watch that on telly as well, because I think that's keeping the country going, for all supporters.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree, Lee. Listen, mate, it's been absolutely fantastic. You know what? I could talk to you for hours, mate. Hours and hours.
It's another story.
Mate,
anyway.
Look forward to getting you on again, LT. I really, really appreciate it, mate. Like I say, it's always a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, no problem.
Safe, mate. Take it easy.